Hey everyone, we are going to talk about how to take CTAL, the structure we use in the mini lesson, how to take it deeper in writing workshop. So the CTAL steps are actually the same within reading workshop and writing workshop. And so many of you have seen this poster and have it posted in your classroom that walks through the basic steps of CTAL. And so this isn't necessarily changing, it's just taking those steps to a little bit deeper level so that it increases engagement within your writing workshop mini lesson. So this document, I'm not going to talk through all of this document, but just going to hit some highlights. So you probably remember that within the connection part of the mini lesson, that's that first C, that there are two parts of the connection. One, you're going to connect it to the learning, you're going to connect the learning to the ongoing work of a writer. And then you're going to end with a teaching point. And then we're going to talk about how you make it worth remembering. And again, just to increase that engagement. So part one of the connection, connecting learning to the ongoing work of a writer. We really want to facilitate in an environment where this is a very intimate setting where you're saying to kids, like, this is a listen up stage. Like, I have something really important that I want to share with you that you might want to try out as a writer. That's the idea. That's the awesomeness of that you're wanting to send kids during this time. You're gathering them. And yes, if you can have a gathering area, that will add to that intimacy, to that we are a group of writers trying things out. So bringing them together, sharing that you have something really important to share with them that might really help them. So that's kind of that idea. And as you hear that, hopefully you think about relationships, because that's really what this part of the CTAL is about. You're coming together as a group of writers talking about some awesome things. So taking the craft deeper, ways that you can do that within part one of the connection is students need to know they can use this now or whenever they need it. What they're learning now is not just for this writing. So we are really trying to work towards the idea of we don't just teach writing, like we don't just teach narrative writing and opinion writing and informational writing. We teach writers, and writers pull on craft moves and strategies that they learn all throughout the year. And there's some narrative craft moves that they might use within informational. And so, yes, it is about the writing that you're currently working on, but we want kids to know that this is a tool that you can just pull out and use anytime you need it as a writer in this unit, outside of this unit, at home, anytime. You'll want to refer to the anchor chart of the craft moves that you've studied so far. If it makes sense, if you're studying different leads within narrative, hopefully you have an anchor chart of all of those different leads, and that you can just keep adding to it to show kids, like, look, you have several different types of leads that you can pull from and use here, and just try them out. Try a couple of different ones out to see which one really makes sense to you. And then having an anecdote or an analogy or a story to engage the writer in the learning. And that doesn't always have to be directly connected to a reading or writing experience that you have had. So I'm going to actually read this to you. I typically don't like to read from documents, but I'm going to read an example of an anecdote or a story right here to show you what I mean. So here it is. When talking to my mom on the phone the other day, she was sharing all these problems she had. I tried to help her. We were in the middle of talking, and she suddenly said, "I'm going." And then bam, she just hung up. And I thought, where's my goodbye? Writers, your readers, like people talking on the phone, expect a reasonable ending to a story. So that's the teaching point, is how do we end stories effectively? And you just connected it to a story. You connected it to a schema, something in their life or something that happened to you, or both, that really engages them in the task. So it just makes it a little more interesting than just saying, hey, we're going to talk about endings today. It just ties it to something that is a story. Research shows that our brains learn through stories, and a short little quick anecdote like that could really make a huge difference. All right, so connection part 2, you're going to end with a teaching point. and make it worth remembering. So first, a deeper understanding of this part of it. We want kids to know, we want writers to know that what we're learning is what good writers do. So that teaching point that you say, and you do say whatever teaching point it is, you're going to communicate that learning, like for example, learning how to write different leads is just what good writers do. So yeah, as much as we can use that phrase, this is what good writers do. This is what writers try out. This is what writers try to figure out. That language is really, really powerful. So how to take the craft deeper? End with the goal, what writers often try to do. So that's going to be your teaching point for the day. That's going to be your learning target. And the procedure or ways writers can go about doing that. Now, you're not going to go into a lot of detail with that at all because that will come in your teach section of CTAL. But you can elaborate on it maybe a little more than you currently do. So an example, and again, I'm just going to read one of these to you, but an example is, writers, today, I want to teach you that when information writers revise, they often consider ways they can add more or elaborate. Information writers can learn to elaborate by studying mentor text, taking note of all the different kinds of information that writers use to teach readers about subtopics. And then you would go on to teach that in the teach section. So it's just another sentence or two added to what you know, if you're just using a one sentence line that explains the teaching point or the learning target, this could help you kind of elaborate it on a little bit more as you talk about that procedure part. Okay, and then the last part I have here is be careful not to. So these are things you won't want to do within your connection part of CTAL. So first, beginning the lesson with a barrage of questions about what learning has taken place so far. So for example, opening up with class. Yesterday we talked about what, and then having multiple students respond to that question. Now, we understand what you're doing there. When that does happen, you're trying to generate schema, trying to get them to make that connection. But that really takes up a lot of time, given that our mini lessons have to be short. The best place, and that's what this next thing says, the best place for the active involvement, guys, is during the active involvement part of CTAL, not necessarily up front. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have some sort of discussion at the beginning of reminding them what you have learned. So an example could be that's a little more quick and efficient is you could say, so writers, we have been studying different leads that we can use. Take a second and go across your fingers. We've learned 3 leads. Go across your fingers and say the 3 types of leads that we've learned so far. That way, everybody is engaged, not just the people that are raising their hands. And that should be fairly quick. Like that's going to take what? 20 seconds or so? Versus if you ask the open-ended question of, hey, everybody, what have we been learning about? And then you have like several people answer. That's just going to take up too much of your very valuable mini lesson time. And then last, you want to try to avoid communicating the message to writers that what they are trying out in their writing today is just about today and this writing piece. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but they need to know that this craft move or learning can benefit them at any time in their life. So that's just huge as we think about developing writers. We don't want them to think that what Miss So-and-so taught them in 3rd grade narrative writing is only used in 3rd grade narrative writing whenever that teacher assigns that writing task. We want them to know these are strategies that you can be pulling from all the time. So yeah, we kind of reiterated a point we already made there. So this document will be up on our curriculum and instruction website, so you can refer to it. If this is something you ever want more information on, or you want to have some conversations about, then don't hesitate to reach out to me, guys. All right, thanks. Have a great one.